Hey guys, what is up? This is the Middleman here with GuidesForUsAll, and today we're going to be checking out all of the crossbows that you can get in Dark Souls 2. So let's get started with the Lite Crossbow. The Lite Crossbow is pretty much the most basic crossbow you're going to find in the whole game. You can buy it straight from Steadyhand McDuff, or you can find one in the Forest of the Fallen Giants after the trap near Pate. Now, this is pretty much the basic crossbow. There's nothing special about it. You can of course infuse it with raw or enchanted, and it will up the damage output with really no negative side effects. Of course, enchanting it with any other elemental kind of thing might have some side effects depending on your stats. This weapon is not terrible, but it is not the greatest weapon in the world in my opinion. Using this guy at plus 10 will give you 250 base damage, which is really not bad, especially if you're using a special type of bolt like magic or lightning. That'll add the damage to allow for some decent damage output, but if you're going to be using the crossbows, I definitely recommend picking up one of the other ones. And now on to the heavy crossbow. You can find the heavy crossbow in several spots throughout the world of Dark Souls 2, but I find that the easiest way to get it is to just buy it from Weaponsmith Ornifex for 4,000 souls after you have freed her from her cage. If you're running through the Earthen Peak, you can also find a plus 3 version of this in a chest. Now onto the statistics. It is better than the light crossbow. It boasts 290 damage at a plus 10 rating, which is 40 higher in the original light crossbow, although you will be using quite a bit more stamina when you fire this weapon. And I don't know if it's just me, but it does seem like this weapon fires a little bit slower than the light crossbow. It might just be a psychological thing in my head because I know it's a heavy crossbow, but that's just me. I think it fires slower. Like before, you can infuse this weapon with raw or enchanted just to give it a straight up damage buff. You can also infuse it with other elements if you feel like that'll help you more. Anyways, moving on to the shield crossbow. The shield crossbow is definitely one of the most unique weapons inside Dark Souls 2, and one of my favorites to use just because it is so interesting to use, and you'll see why here in the gameplay in a second. You can get this weapon by trading the Executioner Chariot Soul to Strait of Elaphis for 1,500 souls. Now once you get this bad boy, you're going to realize very quickly why it is so interesting. When you equip this weapon and you are charging a shot, you will hold the crossbow up like a shield and block enemy damage from the front, which is just awesome. The only downside to this is that you will be able to run out of stamina very quickly if you're not careful, so you really have to keep an eye on your stamina bar even more when you're using this weapon. Now if you're two-handing it, you can aim down the sights just like with the other crossbows in the game, but it does not seem like the shots will be blocked while you are aiming down sight like this. So I personally just recommend getting up close in the battle, holding down the firing charge, and then blocking all the shots. It's more fun to use that way anyways, but if you're going against a powerful enemy, keep an eye on your stamina as it will drain very quickly. Anyways, the stats on this weapon aren't terrible. It definitely does less damage than the light crossbow, but it is still fun to use, especially with the blocking effect, and it also benefits from raw infusion since it has not really any good scaling at all. So I definitely recommend slapping that onto the shield crossbow to improve the low damage. Anyways, moving on to the Evelyn, another one of my favorite weapons. Now to get the Evelyn, you'll need to head through the Undead Crypt, and in the room where you fight Nameless Usurper, turn to the right and there will be an illusory wall. Inside that room there will be a chest. Be careful, there are transparent warriors in there that will poke you while you're trying to grab the chest, but when you open it up, you will get the Evelyn. Now, the base damage for this at plus 10 is 170, and you might think, that's kinda weak, that's not even as good as the light crossbow. That kinda sounds like a crappy weapon, but the great thing about the Evelyn is that it fires 3 shots in rapid succession, inflicting heavy damage. So it's 170 times 3, which is definitely higher than the other weapons. The only downside to this is, of course, since it has to fire 3 shots, the firing is going to take a little bit longer, and the pullback on the crossbow is going to take longer, so you're exposed to taking damage for much longer than you would be with the other crossbows. Now, high damage sounds nice, but you can also dual wield this like the other crossbows, effectively firing 6 shots at a time, which is one of my favorite things to do. It is just way too much fun to dual wield Evelyns and fire 6 crossbow shots at a time. You will, however, use up a lot of stamina and run out of bolts very quickly, so be mindful of your ammo and your stamina while in fights. There's really not much else to say about this weapon. It is just a lot of fun, and was definitely the best crossbow in the game until they released one of the DLCs, and you'll see that coming up with the next crossbow, the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow. Now to get the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow, you will have to fight the Sanctum Knights that you can find inside of the Crown of the Sunken King DLC. I farmed them by this bonfire just by going and killing the 3 in this area, going back to the bonfire, killing the 3, go back to the bonfire. It took me about 10 runs to get it. The weapon has about a 5% drop rate chance, so you're definitely going to want to equip your Gold Serpent Ring and the Jester's Hat to increase the drop rate chance of this item if you want to get it quickly. Now, upon further review, I really don't think this weapon is better than the Evelyn in terms of damage output. At plus 10, it will do only 100 base damage, but it does have a special attack if you two-hand it and then press the strong attack button on the opposite hand. So if you're holding it in your right hand, you press the strong attack button for your left hand, you will unleash a barrage of dark bolts as opposed to regular bolts. This weapon has no base dark damage, but if you infuse it with dark, it will get extra scaling. You can also equip the dark clutch ring and ring of blades to increase the damage even more. It will deal quite a bit of damage if you infuse it with dark, but do remember that if your enemy has any dark resistance, this thing will not do jack. It will be doing crap damage, and there will be no point to using it, which is why, in my personal opinion, I do prefer the Evelyn, but this is still a fun weapon to fool around with. And we have one more crossbow to check out, which is just the Sanctum Crossbow. Not as exciting as the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow, but still a crossbow, so let's check it out. You can find this crossbow on a body near the Sanctum Chamber hidden bonfire that I was farming these guys from. To get to this bonfire, you'll actually have to shoot this hidden little button here with a bow or crossbow. Then you'll have to head up the stairs and jump across the gap, and in that room you will find the bonfire. To the right of the bonfire, you will find a body hanging on the ledge containing the Sanctum Crossbow. Now do note, you can also get this weapon from the Sanctum Knights that you get the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow from. So if you're just as lucky as me, you'll probably end up getting the crossbow that you are not farming for from them for quite some time. Anyways, this one will fire one single precise bolt. It has the same Dark Bolt special attack that the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow has. However, at plus 10, this guy will deal 220 base damage, which is really nice. It does more damage if you infuse it with dark. Of course, the dark bolt attack will do more damage, and since it is a single bolt, it will be easier to connect with than connecting all three bolts to make the collective damage better. You can use all the strategies I told before about the dark clutch ring to increase the dark damage. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is about this weapon. It is just like the Sanctum Repeating Crossbow, except it only fires one bolt, and it has higher damage output. It's not a bad crossbow, still fun to use, but in all honesty, my favorite crossbows in the game are the Evelyn and the Shield Crossbow because they're just so damn fun to use. And another note about all crossbows in general, you cannot infuse these weapons with poison. I don't know why they made that, but I guess it could be a little cheap to have a dual-wield Evelyn shooting 6 poison shots out every time you fire. I could see how that could be annoying. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to say about the crossbows, guys. Thank you very much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, rating down below, and subscribe to see some more videos in the future, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.